There was a king, but not a king of truth, not a king of justice, not even a king of wisdom. He was a king of appearances. He did not rule men. He ruled perception. He did not shape reality. He shaped how reality was seen. Instinctively, perhaps without ever putting it into words, he understood a truth that most people realize only after their lives are already ruined. Whoever controls the image controls the world. What you are when no one is watching is irrelevant. What matters is what others believe you to be. His marriage was not born from intimacy between two minds, but from visual convenience. The woman beside him did not need depth. She needed symmetry. She did not need to think, only to compose the scene. She was not a partner, but a symbol, a polished mirror reflecting authority, a living trophy, silent and compliant. The entire kingdom operated under the same logic. Decisions were not made based on what was right, but on what would be applauded. No one asked, "Is this just?" They asked, "Will this be accepted?" Applause became morality. Noise became value. This king is not historical. He is psychological. He lives today in executives who perform virtue, in spiritual leaders who rehearse faith, in influencers who sell happiness they do not possess. He lives quietly in ordinary people who are addicted to approval and terrified of disapproval. The modern world did not abolish theater. It made it permanent. Everyone is on stage. Everyone is observed. Everyone adjusts posture, tone, opinion, identity. Very few stop to ask whether there is still something real beneath the performance. The problem is not wearing masks. The problem is forgetting the face beneath them. When appearance becomes more important than being, truth becomes an inconvenience. And whatever is inconvenient is discarded. Thus, a world is born that is elegant on the surface and rotten underneath. A world where no one governs themselves, but everyone kneels before the gaze of others. This is where Schopenhauer's blade begins to cut. Concern with others' opinions is not a modern flaw. It is a structural disease of the human condition. Some live almost entirely to please. Others believe themselves free, yet still allow the gaze of others to decide their paths, their values, their fears. For Schopenhauer, this is not merely a psychological mistake. It is an assault on the very possibility of happiness. He lived on the margins. He did not marry. He had no children. He did not seek popularity. He did not attempt to belong. He chose solitude not as escape, but as philosophy. While the world convulsed in its hunger for recognition, he observed. And what he saw was brutally simple. In their desperate pursuit of happiness, people systematically chase the wrong things. Arthur Schopenhauer did not write to comfort. He wrote to impose order where man insists on chaos. In The Wisdom of Life, he revives an ancient division attributed to Aristotle and sharpens it into a blade. Human life can be understood through three fundamental sources: what we are, what we have, and what we appear to be in the eyes of others. The error begins when these three are treated as equals. They are not. What we are, our mental constitution, our character, our temperament, our capacity to think, endure, and understand, is the core of experience. The world happens inside consciousness. Pain does not hurt outside it. Anxiety does not live in objects. Everything passes through the mind. Schopenhauer states this with cold precision. What a person is in himself contributes far more to happiness than what he possesses or what he represents in the eyes of others. What we have comes second. Money, property, possessions matter only to the extent that they prevent extreme suffering. Beyond that point, they become noise. Excess does not add meaning. It only fills space. But modern man commits a strange, almost pathological inversion. He places the third sphere at the top: reputation, image, public opinion. He invests infinite energy in what he cannot control. He lives for something that does not belong to him. He builds his life on unstable ground. This inversion is not merely practical, it is existential. When happiness depends on others' judgment, happiness becomes impossible. Because others are volatile, ignorant, inconsistent, and often cruel. Schopenhauer understood early, to base life on public opinion is to build a house on sand. And yet nearly everyone insists on living there. From this lost hierarchy, everything else collapses. There is a point where error ceases to be moral or social and becomes ontological. It is the moment when man confuses what is real with what is perceived. Schopenhauer diagnosed this displacement with disturbing clarity. Men end by treating as real that which exists only in others' opinions, while their own consciousness is treated as secondary. This is not metaphor, it is diagnosis. Life happens within. It is inside consciousness that the world acquires weight and meaning. Fear, boredom, joy, despair, all arise there. Yet modern man lives as if this inner space were irrelevant, as if what truly mattered always lay outside. The question, "What do I think?" is replaced by, "How will this be seen?" Conviction is replaced by anticipation of judgment. This creates a specific mode of existence, the represented life. The individual is no longer a being in formation, but a character under maintenance. Speech is calibrated. Gestures are controlled. Thoughts are censored. Not to be true, but to be acceptable. Over time, this posture produces a quiet emptiness. The person no longer knows what they want when no one is watching. Anxiety appears without clear cause. Fatigue sets in without physical effort. It is the exhaustion of sustaining an image. Schopenhauer understood that this inversion destroys happiness. When the center of life is displaced outward, the individual becomes dependent on something unstable, unpredictable, and usually hostile. To live outside oneself is to live at the mercy of others, and one who lives at mercy does not live. He reacts. Thus arises the silent tragedy of modern man. He exists, but does not inhabit his own life. Praise is one of the most effective lies humanity has ever accepted. It does not need to be true to work. It only needs to be convenient. Schopenhauer noticed something few admit. Man does not desire truth. He desires confirmation. He wants to be told he is good, right, special, even when he knows deep down that he is not. Praise acts like a sedative. It does not heal the wound. It merely numbs the pain for a moment. He writes with brutal honesty. Even when praise is obviously false, it is still welcome if it refers to something of which the person is proud. This reveals something uncomfortable. Pride does not seek truth. It seeks nourishment, and almost anything will suffice. Praise offers a fleeting sense of meaning. Someone saw me, someone approved. For a moment, existence feels justified, but the effect fades quickly. And like any short-acting drug, it demands repetition. Thus begins dependence on validation. The emptier the inner life, the more necessary external applause becomes. Actions are no longer guided by meaning, but by reaction. The modern world turned this into a system. Likes, comments, followers, numbers replaced genuine recognition. Approval became a metric. Value became a statistic. The cost is severe. Praise never stays. It depends on mood, trend, novelty. Today it exalts, tomorrow it ignores. And when silence arrives, it reveals what was always there: emptiness. Schopenhauer knew that a life built on praise is built on illusion. Praise does not form character. It does not construct identity. It does not offer direction. It only postpones confrontation with one's own insufficiency. And the sweeter the lie, the harder it is to abandon. No slavery begins with visible chains. It begins with small concessions. When external validation becomes priority, the individual learns something dangerous. Adapting hurts less than standing firm. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he begins to negotiate with himself. Schopenhauer names this without romance. Excessive concern with others' opinions is a form of slavery. This slavery requires no violence, it is voluntary. The individual offers himself. He adjusts language, softens beliefs, hides inclinations. Not because he thinks he is wrong, but because he fears rejection. The betrayal is gradual, daily, silent. A thought left unspoken, an idea abandoned, a gesture rehearsed for approval. Eventually, the boundary between adaptation and falsification dissolves. Personality becomes a set of conditioned responses. Action is no longer rooted in being, but in what works. At this point, life is no longer lived. It is managed. Every decision is filtered through others' expectations. Every choice carries the weight of external judgment. The result is not inner success, but exhaustion. A fatigue no rest can cure. Because what exhausts is not effort, but constant self-denial. One may gain prestige, acceptance, status, but the cost is steep, internal coherence. And without coherence, there is no peace. Only uncomfortable silence when the applause stops. After dismantling the obsession with approval, Schopenhauer asks the decisive question: whose opinions are these, anyway? The answer is unpleasant. Schopenhauer did not believe most opinions deserved serious consideration, not from arrogance but from observation. Most men think superficially. Their ideas are narrow and therefore full of error. Most opinions do not arise from deep thought or honest confrontation with reality. They arise from habit, impulse, the need to belong. They are reflexes, not conclusions. Man opines about everything: politics, morality, science, other lives. He opines without study, without silence, without doubt, and yet demands respect. For Schopenhauer, this was not intelligence but presumption. Many opinions exist not to understand, but to diminish. They are expressions of resentment, attacks against what threatens to expose mediocrity. Today, this is unmistakable. Lack of consequence revealed intellectual nakedness. The less one knows, the louder one speaks. The less one understands, the more absolute the certainty. To give weight to such opinions is to surrender one's life to incompetent judges, to allow shallow minds to influence deep decisions. Most opinions are worthless because most people do not think. They repeat, react, imitate. To live guided by this collective noise is to exchange reflection for echo. Schopenhauer knew the crowd is not only ignorant, it is hostile. Hostile to what it does not understand. Hostile to what it cannot control. Hostile to what makes it feel small. Great minds always encounter resistance, especially from the mediocre. This resistance does not arise from argument, but from resentment. The ordinary man does not hate error. He hates exposure. Nothing exposes limitation more than someone who thinks deeply, lives independently, or steps outside the collective script. Thus, the crowd prefers the predictable, the repeated, the shallow, what confirms habits, what demands no transformation. The empty are celebrated because they disturb nothing. The lucid are ignored or attacked. This explains why so many choose mediocrity, not from incapacity but from fear of isolation. Exclusion hurts, ridicule wounds, and so many choose acceptance over truth. But the price is identity. Whoever bends to the crowd becomes indistinguishable. The crowd does not lead, it drags. And those who allow themselves to be dragged rarely choose their own path. The liberation Schopenhauer offers is not heroic. It does not feel victorious. It is quiet and bitter. He does not believe happiness waits for those who learn to please better. He believes the opposite. The less we depend on opinion, the less unnecessary suffering we endure. The only way to end this universal madness is to recognize it as madness. This recognition does not change the world. It only changes one's position within it. Liberation does not mean despising everyone. It means restoring hierarchy, understanding that reputation and fame are conveniences, not essentials. Freedom begins when one returns inward, when choices are sustained by coherence rather than applause. This demands detachment. It demands acceptance of misunderstanding, neglect, even rejection. Schopenhauer knew this leads to solitude, but he did not see solitude as evil. He saw it as the cost of inner autonomy. In silence, away from opinion's noise, one can finally hear one's own consciousness. Choose companions for affinity, not status. Work for necessity or meaning, not prestige. Live more simply, less performatively, more honestly. This path does not promise constant happiness. It promises something rarer, intermittent peace, small intervals of quiet in a loud world. To live this way is to lose the audience, but it may be, for the first time, to truly gain oneself. Most people scroll. They consume, react, forget. They move on as if nothing ever touched them. But if you're still here, it means something did. It means these words didn't just pass through your eyes. They settled somewhere quieter, somewhere deeper. And that alone already matters more than you think. This channel isn't built for noise. It's built for those who feel the weight of things, for those who sense that the world is louder than it is honest, for those who are tired of being entertained and are quietly searching for clarity, depth, or even discomfort that feels real. If you watch these videos, reflect on them, and carry something with you afterward, you are already supporting this work. Truly, your attention is not small. In a world starving for silence and thought, attention is currency. Sharing the video helps too. It places these ideas in the path of someone who might need them, even if they don't know it yet. Now, if you feel a deeper connection, if you sense that this channel speaks to something you rarely see reflected, becoming a member is a way of saying, this matters enough to keep alive. Membership helps sustain the time, research, writing, and solitude required to create content that doesn't flatter, doesn't rush, and doesn't dilute itself to please the algorithm. Members are not just supporters. They are part of the inner circle that keeps this space intact. And if you want an even quieter way to say, this helped me, Super Thanks exists for that reason. It's a gesture, a signal, a form of reciprocity, not an obligation, just an option for those who feel it's right. None of this is required. Your presence already counts. But if you choose to go further, know this. You're not just supporting a channel. You're protecting a space where depth still survives, where thinking slowly, honestly, and independently is still allowed. Whatever you choose, thank you for being here. That alone already sets you apart.